Hello, cosmonauts. Today, we are going to be exploring what Reddit asked people who have stopped going to church. What made you stop? Answer 1. They said, my mom's cancers was God testing me and my family. This one gets me incredibly angry each time. If God really is testing people with these horrible situations, then is he really a good God? He has the power to make people's lives better, but a majority of people have immense suffering during their lives, whether related to abuses around them, medical diagnoses, financial hardships, etc. So he doesn't care to improve people's lives, just to test us? My cousin committed suicide, and the priest told the hundreds of people at the service that God loved my cousin so much he couldn't wait for cousin to come to heaven. My uncle emotionally abused his family enough that my cousin wanted it to stop. God didn't help in the 20 years of abuse, so why did God suddenly step in to save him then? Answer 2. Quit going to church because of the religious platitudes I received in respect to my cancer diagnosis, treatment, and remission. They were all some iteration of God has a plan, which really rubbed me the wrong way. I was very religious prior to this, but never believed in determinism. I always felt that determinism cheapened the necessity of free will and dumbed down God to this Santa Claus character in the sky that only granted wishes if you believed and prayed hard enough. Meanwhile, funeral homes were hauling off dozens of corpses a day from my cancer center, many of whom prayed plenty hard enough and died anyway. Then the thought that magic genie God cured me really cheapened the fact that dozens of doctors and nurses were treating me with drugs developed by thousands of researchers working millions of hours to figure out how to scientifically kill my tumors with chemicals. Answer 3. That last part is what got me. I was battling cancer for the latter half of 2023 after I got diagnosed less than a month after my college graduation. My mom was then forcing me to go to church to show my appreciation of God and everyone that prayed for me. After I was in remission, the people I should really be thanking are the countless doctors and nurses who took care of me during that time. It bothered me that everyone was thanking God for working through the medical professionals and giving them guidance when I know damn well they worked and studied hard to get to where they are. I can't imagine going through not only undergrad but grad and med school, just for someone to give credit to the magic man in the sky for all of it. Answer 4. My dad is a pastor. You wouldn't believe how abusive some churches are to pastors. My dad, in spite of his mental illness, was a good church leader. He would give money to people who needed it, even if they weren't a part of the church. He visited people in hospitals, jail, and prison. He supported a lot of drug addicts and helped them get sober. He never sexually assaulted anyone, never cheated on my mom, and did what he could to chase out those who took advantage of children. I've known a lot of pastors who were adored, who were found to have cheated on their wives or sexually assaulted children. My dad, and me and my family, were severely abused by the churches my dad preached at, mainly because he preached against the horrible stuff they were doing. They would hire my dad because they thought they could control him. But my dad has a personality disorder which gave him the ability to do the right things. My dad wasn't a great dad, but still today I am proud of him. He tries to be an honest and godly man in spite of his issues. Answer 5. My grandma devoted her life to her local church. She cleaned and locked up the church hall after every event for probably 50 years, gave us religious texts for Christmas, and when she went into palliative care dying in one of their hospitals, they tried their darndest to steal their money from the sale of her church-owned assisted living apartment, which we were going to use to pay for her care. We had to get lawyers involved, and she died a horrible, painful death from pancreatic cancer, asking why God did it to her, when she was still aware enough to do more than scream. Answer 6. I stopped being forced to go. I was in my early teens when I realized I didn't really believe the stuff that was being taught in church. But my dad was a deacon, so we went every weekend. I struggled for years trying to figure out what I believed and convincing myself that I wasn't bad for not believing in a God. When I moved in with my mom when I was 16, I never had to go again because she is an atheist. She actually went to church when she was married to my dad, but she didn't believe any of it either. Also, my dad stopped going a few years after I moved out because he said that it was his job as a parent to get us to go, and that job was over, and he's never been back. Answer 7. Synagogue here. But this was also mine. I begged to stop going when I got bat mitzvahed. I argued that since I'd be an adult by the laws of Judaism, I should be allowed to choose. But after I was bat mitzvahed, my parents said it wouldn't be fair if I didn't go while my brother had to. So I had to wait 3 years until he was bar mitzvahed. I think his service was the last I went to. I'd be questioning religion since I was 7. Having me still go until I was 15 didn't make me more religious. It made me hate and loathe religion. My kids have only been to religious facilities for weddings. Answer 8. For as long as I can remember, I've been an atheist, including as a kid. Never believed it. Went along to a friend's church for the confirmation of his newborn, and Hey, it's a social event and I respect my friend. Rituals are kinda nice to mark life milestones anyway. Let's go. During the proceedings, one of the priests was giving church news, and one of the items was their sister church over in Africa had news of the priest getting to town and doing something. Some second thing I forget. And 2 of his daughters were murdered. Anyway, next item in the news is blah blah blah. The chief official of their sister church had 2 members of his family murdered, and no one batted an eye. Didn't even pause for reflection, let alone a prayer. I was gobsmacked. It was just mentioned like another boring bit of news. There was no additional context either, like, and we appreciate the collection we took for him, or let's reflect like last time, or anything. Just another line item to get through. Answer 9. I was a regular churchgoer for most of my life, as was my wife. Kids baptized, active in choir, taught Bible study, volunteer efforts, the works. When my wife was diagnosed with metastatic cancer, her treatments became very rough and her health deteriorated rapidly. This was pre-Obamacare days, and she wasn't covered under my employer's insurance plan due to pre-existing condition clauses. We had been tithing regularly and were giving extra towards the church's new building fund. We had to stop that to make ends meet, but still tithed what we could. The senior pastor contacted us and asked why. And I told him, and he asked if he and the deacons could do a special prayer session for her health. We showed up to the session, laying on of hands and whole process. It was emotionally nurturing, but her health continued to spiral. Each visit we got more and more bad news. Finally, a diagnosis of stage 4, and she was given only months to live. We were once again approached by our pastor, who asked to come to our home and see us. During that visit, the godless bastard looked straight at her and said she must have some hidden sin that was preventing her from being healed. And this was God's way of pushing her to seek the better path, blah blah blah. My wife was sitting there, oxygen tubes up her nose, no hair, down 60 pounds from her vibrant pre-cancer self, and could barely speak above a whisper. And he had the gall to accuse her of committing some hidden sin, stopping God from granting her healing. I threw him out of our home. I refuse to worship any god that needs to play with their creation to somehow get off on praise. That's bullshit. She died one of the most wholesome women I've ever known, and several years later I'd learned that pastor was diddling several kids in the congregation. If God exists, it's not in any church. Church was designed to glorify evil men. Edit. This blew up overnight. For some follow-up to common questions I'm seeing in the replies to my post, first, thank you for your support, understanding and even pointing out that one bad pastor, and this man was truly vile, doesn't condemn an entire religion. You are right, it doesn't and shouldn't, but I've since encountered this in so many other religious settings. I know the Bible well enough to know there's literally the opposite support for this belief that you are being punished for some secret sin. Bad people often flourish in this world. Good people often suffer. I don't understand that, other than to understand that good or bad, suffering is the human condition, and all faith can offer, often with great effect, is a means to endure it. I have been in a few churches since that one, and each of them I felt more and more convinced that it's the man and woman behind the pulpit and their character that defines that church, which means it's more of a congregation of charisma and influence than any meaningful expression of worship of God. Thus, I no longer go to church. It's a flawed institution, and I found no need to attend any church to maintain a spiritual outlook. I still tithe, but now it's donations to charitable orgs that I research carefully and have a proven track record of actually helping others. And either via coincidence or design, none of those orgs are affiliated with any particular religious institution. Hey you, if you're enjoying the video, subscribe for more histories. Answer 10. Not to the degree of your story, but this makes me think of my in-laws' funeral. At the time, my husband and I were 26. He has a younger sister and a younger brother, the brother being 15 at the time. Their dad had killed their mom, then himself. It was a massive surprise to the family because there was never any abuse, physical, emotional, or otherwise, that was happening in the house. The younger brother never noticed anything. Neither did the grandma. To make a long story short, she fell out of love with him and wanted a divorce. He did not. Their uncle had asked the pastor of the church they attended to speak at the funeral. The family specifically asked that he does not mention the nature of their deaths. To quote my husband, "This was the worst thing he has ever done to them." Like I mentioned, there was no previously noted history of abuse that happened in the household to their mom or them. They already had several mixed emotions about the situation because their dad had always been good to them. Yet he is the one who took their mom away. The pastor had arrived with an entourage of women from the church, which we did not know would happen. He went on to completely slander their dad, talking about how he was going to hell. Their younger brother was completely overwhelmed and sobbing. The man then went to the younger brother, the women laying their hands all over him. My husband was trying to pull him away, but they kept grabbing him. He then tells him that he should be grateful his parents even lived this long, because earlier that day, he had to speak at a funeral for a 2-year-old. At least your parents didn't die at 2 years old like this kid did. Like, what kind of fucked up comment is that? I thought my husband was going to swing at him. I grabbed his arm. The entourage of women then spent the remainder of the service passing out flyers to everyone to attend the church. It was some of the most disrespectful shit I've ever seen. Answer 11. I grew up in the Church of Christ. From what I was told, the church I attended was on 60 Minutes for being a cult. Right before my family joined. My parents knew this and we went anyway. It's weird being taught at 9 years old that your Baptist family members are going to hell because the Church of Christ is the only way to heaven. Answer 12. I went to a private Church of Christ high school. There was a mandatory Bible class taught each year. In my junior year, the Bible teacher walked up to each student's desk, knelt down and asked each student if they were Church of Christ. If you said no, he looked you straight in your eyes and told you that you were going to hell. I thought it was fucked up but funny at the time. Now that I am grown, I am appalled that children were subjected to this, especially since they often don't have a say in what religious tradition they are raised in. Answer 13. Everything is so surface level and safe. They all fit themselves into these expected roles and pray away their real personalities. You meet one, you've met them all. The same laugh, gestures, dress, all married off by early 20s or virtuously waiting. Have several kids being brought up in the church and, if not leading the kids' Bible school. Anything in life that deviates from what they expected is met with a fake, steely smile and more prayers. Everyone judging each other, while being afraid to put a foot wrong in case others start to gossip or worse. The prayer warriors out-praying each other. The perfect families. The 4 a.m. Bible study club. Friday evening prayer night church gang. So fun. You try to have a casual chat, but every conversation somehow gets tied back into an Old or New Testament verse. Any questioning gets silenced. Rinse and repeat. Answer 14. I got really tired of not hearing God the way the rest of the congregation did. I got tired of prayers that ended up being little more than words. I got tired of reading the Bible and constantly running across barbaric, nonsensical shit that has no place in the world. I got tired of feeling like everyone around me was acting out belief to keep appearances tidy. I just didn't buy into it. I was forced into church as a skeptic, desperately wanted to truly believe, and nothing ever convinced me. People in the congregation were living the same erroneously led lives that the heathens outside were. Divorces left and right, drug addictions, treating others poorly based on mood. At a certain point, even as a kid, I asked, what is all of this even for? What does it do? And it seemed like, for the most part, it was a place where people gathered to yap and pretend together. Not my scene, especially if my attendance is gained via the coercion of eternal damnation. No thank you. I'll burn if need be to miss that anointed opportunity. Answer 15. Being literally told, you're not a Christian, because I didn't believe exactly like them. And the person telling me this also was an abusive, violent alcoholic who grabbed me around my throat and gave me sciatica because I had to carry her to her bedroom when she was passed out drunk. I am a follower of Christ. I'm not a fan of other Christians. I was also told by another Christian I was in the wrong for buying a homeless man with no feet socks for his uncovered stumps, while it was below freezing outside. Then I had another send me a video from a very popular Christian page that was showing a monkey leashed to a wall being repeatedly attacked by a snake. Somehow they didn't see that as evil. And it was like when Satan tries to get you but you resist. The absolute dissonance of watching an animal be tortured while claiming to be a follower of Jesus is baffling, but common. Very, very common amongst Christians. And I'm not going to sit in a building and have a middleman between me and God. I align with the Quaker denomination the most, but I view no version of the church as pure. They are all rotten and corrupt. Answer 16. Religion didn't make sense anymore. Why believe in a several thousand-year-old story that the supposed God didn't even write? The Christian Bible was written by man, for man. I'll believe in a God when they show themselves directly. Answer 17. Reality and science. The fact that once an idea that the church says is against God's will or is definitely a fact is proven wrong by science, or started being accepted by society, the church all of a sudden accepts it and deems it correct and or accepted. Proof is churches closing and being sold because they weren't making enough money. All religions should be taxed because all they are is another business. Answer 18. I gradually got sick of listening to unkind bullshit that didn't seem to match up with what the guy the whole religion's named after was saying. I got sick of seeing none of the people there living their lives like that guy said they should, and instead, hunting around the whole book for justifications for the way they were already acting and thinking. I got sick of noticing how we were supposed to do less than the bare minimum in order to be considered good Christians and Baptists. Eventually, it occurred to me that I was getting zero value out of listening to an up-jumped redneck behind a pulpit, claiming to be an authority on the unknowable. Answer 19. The fact they told it was a safe place during my divorce with an abusive ex. Then they welcomed him in, telling me he needs more saving than me. The patriarchy. Men covering for other men. Hypocrisy. The pastor commented on my broken arm even, saying, "What man would do that to a woman? Sandals is awful." Answer 20. The fact they told it was a safe place during my divorce with an abusive ex. Then they welcomed him in, telling me he needs more saving than me. The patriarchy. Men covering for other men. Hypocrisy. The pastor commented on my broken arm even, saying, "What man would do that to a woman? Sandals is awful." Answer 21. Was raised Catholic and went to a Catholic school. All my school life, 0 out of 10. Do not do this to your kids. There were 4 nails in the coffin of my religious life. LGBTQ rights became more and more accepted, and the Catholic Church became more and more downright mean about how LGBTQ people should not exist and all that. It just didn't sit right with me, especially since I have LQBT family members. Later found that I too was LGBTQ, so, first nail. My then fiance and I wanted to get married. The issue was that my aunt was dying of stage 4 throat cancer, and the groomsman was set to be deployed to the literal opposite side of the globe in just 7 months. We needed to have the wedding soon. Went to the priest, and the priest was like, 9 months of marriage counseling. Not a minute earlier, we explained the situation, and he refused to budge. He then said that if I were to go ahead and get married by someone else anyways, then I would be banned from all sacraments until the marriage counseling was completed. Second nail. We got married by someone else, and I never went back to church. Trump, and how all the religious people I knew latched onto him like he was Christ come again. None of anything he said was even remotely in line with what I had been taught Jesus wanted us to be. Yet all the people around me were full-on worshiping this POS. I knew Trump was bad news by the end of his first campaign speech in 2015. Third nail. My mom died. She had been crazy sick all my life and was always in insane amounts of pain. I prayed to God every bloody week, asking him to heal her as she had done more than enough to deserve that. Not that she should have had to do anything. Then she died instead. There is no way a loving deity would do that to her. Don't give me that God works in mysterious ways, BS. She suffered for 20-ish years and was incredibly devout the entire freaking time. What did that get her? Jack shit. Fourth nail. Now I'm full-on atheist. If there is a God, they have stopped caring about us millennia ago. And it is time we stop letting a book written 2,000 years ago from the world's worst game of telephone and edited by countless people with dubious intentions since rule our lives. Answer 22. Growing up, my life was consumed by church, not by my own choice. I had absolutely no life out of going to school and going to church. My parents made sure of it. Spending so much time learning about God and the Bible. Once I got old enough to think for myself, I realized that no one in my church was living by the very values I learned from them. I tried to ask questions and point this out, and I was shut down and treated horribly for it. But I was under 18 and still not allowed to leave. They were racists, misogynists. They turned a blind eye to abuse and shunned those who struggled from mental and financial crises unless they were deemed good people. And the things they shamed people for were superficial, trivial, and were mostly personal choices that affected literally no one else around them. I came to the realization that I strongly disliked everyone in the church. Many non-Christians I knew were living by the values I was taught organically, without need of the constant threats and fear-mongering. And the people purporting the threats and fear-mongering were the very people that I thought would likely go to hell for their actions based on actual Christian values. It took a long time for me to be able to leave because my parents did not support it. So I had to work hard and become completely independent from them to escape. I would much rather live the values I believe in organically than participate in an organization that uses thinly veiled religious speech to justify their own hate, political violence, and sometimes literal violence towards others. I believe that much of modern-day Christianity is not actually Christian. Jesus would not claim them. It's just a hollowed-out word now. Most of those people live their lives violating Commandment 2. Don't take the Lord's name in vain, by claiming Christianity while living their lives they live and doing the things that they do. Meanwhile, they beat their kids to bruises for saying the word goddamn. Hey you, subscribe for more histories. Answer 23. Seeing all the terrible things organized religion has done over the years to folks who don't believe or live a different lifestyle than what is prescribed in the church. Having so many stipulations on what makes you a good person or not. Being told if I didn't go to church every Sunday, God might smite me. I don't need a religion to forgive me of my sins. I know I'm a good person because I treat people with the same respect I would hope to get in return. I help people in need when I can. Not because a religion told me it's the right thing to do, but because it just is the right thing to do. And lastly, science. Answer 24. I read the Bible 4 times front to back, went to Bible college, learned the culture of the time, learned the history of multiple denominations. All of that put me on the fence. The moment I held my first child for the first time, I knew the God described to me by Christianity does not exist. Then I learned about Islam and studied it and the cultures around it. It's pretty interesting just how much in common the two religions have, right down to the exact same manipulation tactics starting at birth and ingrained in tradition. It took 26 years to learn who I am and what I like, and to admit it all to my religious family. I only regret not doing so sooner. The last 5 years of my life are by far my best and healthiest years. Answer 25. Different reason than most here. I just am tired of going to church, was forced to go every Sunday for Sunday school, adult service, and a decent chunk of coffee hours until I left home. My parents' pastor and my pastor make me hopeful. But the being at church at 9:30 a.m. on one of my few days off and being the only person of our age group there, everyone else is either 20 years older or younger. There's no real community feeling for me. If I need good news, I'll watch a service from either church on YouTube after the fact. Answer 26. Long story. My wife and I slowly started drifting away back when gay marriage was being legalized across the country in the US. Our Catholic Church was adamantly against it and passed petitions around to try and prevent a local referendum from moving through the legislature. If you couldn't tell, we support gay marriage. That made us angry and was when we started a split. The nail in the coffin for me was during my sophomore year of college at my university's Catholic Newman Center. I had found a great community of friends and support there, and was involved in the guys' Bible study group. Toward the end of the year, a leader of the Bible study wanted to talk to me. I had voiced that I didn't have interest in leading the Bible study. I didn't want to take a leadership role, so he sat me down in an office, one-on-one, closed the door, and verbally berated me to the tune of, "Your mom wasn't hard enough on you. You haven't gotten your ass kicked enough." To this, I had no response. Got up from that meeting and only returned to the building when the head priest wanted to talk to me about the incident. Haven't returned to the church or Catholicism since. Way too much shame and guilt and negativity for me. Better in the rear view. Answer 27. I grew up in a branch of Catholicism that is pretty cultish. My family is so fanatical that they go to church every day, and there are more pictures of Jesus, Mary, and saints than of family members in the house. I went from "the church is boring" to "I would rather do anything else than go to church," to not stepping foot in a church since moving out, to despising the church since I found out that during COVID, the priests were encouraging people to break lockdown rules, told them to not wear masks, to not get vaxxed, and that the whole COVID situation got created in order to persecute Christians. Sometime during that, my own mother told me that it would be better if I was dying of cancer than if I was living in sin, not attending church and not being celibate until marriage. And that made me email the bishop to excommunicate me, so I am no longer associated in any way with these nutjobs. Answer 28. What made me stop going was when every Sunday was a political rally and growing request for more money to be donated. For reference, grew up Catholic, in a very non-Catholic area. My parents played the music at Mass, so most Sundays we were at church most of the day. There was a small Catholic school over in the next town, so we went there until high school. I was never a big fan of going to church just because of past history, and I'd rather do something else with my days off. However, I always felt that the church, Catholicism in general, was one of those things that I felt was a mostly positive influence on society in general. My experience growing up was that it was fairly apolitical, and it was always stressed at the churches we went to was, "Don't be a dick." Fast forward a couple of decades and I've got kids that I'm sending to a Catholic school. Based on the low quality of the city schools, you'd get a discount if you attended Mass. No big deal. Then the priest started to espouse how you were supposed to raise you kids this way or that. It was a stark difference to what my view of Catholicism was, and I felt that it went against what I was taught. I started looking around and turns out I was wrong. Apparently, the Catholic churches that my family went to when I was growing up were more liberal than the others. There's also all the pedophilia, anti-LGBTQ, etc. This from a large swath of clergy that are supposedly celibate and have no kids of their own. Answer 29. I'm a non-denominational Christian and prefer just studying with my wife or on my own these days. We stopped attending about 8 years ago. Our church started getting very political, and they're huge supporters of Israel, as in, Israel does no wrong, ever. I love all people, including my Jewish brothers and sisters, but the Israeli government is corrupt. The ironic thing is that the pastor really did a great job teaching biblical principles in Scripture, The church also does a lot of work for the homeless and other people in need. I used to be part of the homeless ministry years ago, and I got to meet a lot of genuinely nice people when I was out and about on the streets helping with food and water. But yeah, the Israel thing really threw me off. It's not right. If you really do a character study on Jesus himself, you see that he called out hypocrites instead of joining in on the hypocrisy. Even if you're not a Christian, I highly recommend studying Matthew 5. It's so eye-opening to see that American Christianity is not Christianity at all. Answer 30, I posted something a minute ago, but I just remembered something and this really bothered me even though I had left a post before. But because we had raised our children in our religious belief system, and I thought this applies to all religious sects no matter who they are if they teach it. My daughter was valedictorian, had a scholarship to university and a scholarship to law school. She also became an attorney who helped those in need and those who could not afford an attorney. She spoke 3 languages. She dated a couple guys, but they were not men who wanted to live of life and responsibility, and that was not going to be her with them. At the age of 34, my daughter was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer stage 3C. By the way, March is triple-negative breast cancer month. My daughter did the chemotherapy, mastectomy, radiation, and she died a month before her 35th birthday. The last time before she died and was in the hospital, she said to me that she must have done something wrong in her life, and I asked her, "What do you mean you did nothing wrong?" I knew this was religion talking. Religion teaches us that we are born in sin, error, that we do wrong from the time we are little, that our thoughts are sinful and God does not like how we are. Because we are born in sin. That was it. That was the religion talking and coming out on her, that she must have done something wrong because she had cancer and was dying. She tried doing everything right and tried helping others with the gift that she was given, of a scholarship she wanted to make sure that others who needed attorneys could have them. At that moment, I became enraged. I did not show it, but I knew how furious I felt inside. I didn't think not only of my daughter and her feelings and her beliefs and why she felt that way, but I thought about all of us who have ever lived and died, all of us who are living will die, that we all think of this no matter which sect of religion we practice or believe. It is ingrained in us from the time we are born. When do we stop this? How do we tell children they are innocent children? How do we tell them instead that they are sinful and God says they are bad? Then, as adults, we see our children blame their illness on something they have done wrong in their life when they did nothing wrong. This is the reason why I will never return to any religion. Those other things that I had mentioned about my other post, some may return. I may not. I will give maybe a handshake to something, but not firm. Because when I heard my own child say those words in speaking of herself, and I knew my child's life and I knew where that came from, and I was part of the reason why, because I, as her father, taught her this. And I learned it from the books we all learned it from. All of us should be outraged that we have been taught this and continue it on. After my daughter died, we decided to donate a lot of her things that she had. And there was a church nearby who was taking donations. I decided to give a lot of stuff so that other people would have something. My daughter had many different types of women's styles, and I decided I would give them to the church. They had a donation center, and women could appreciate these good clothes. We were planning a celebration of life for my daughter, and I had mentioned this to the woman who took the clothes, so she asked for the minister to come out to talk to me, because they had a big place for such an event. He then begins to ask me if my daughter had been saved before she died so that she could go to heaven, because if she had not been saved, then she was not going to heaven. That was the first thing he said to me. The odd part is, this is my grandmother's religion, sect. I remember from a child before my grandmother died, I had somewhat of an affinity for. This man on that day telling me that I'm asking about my daughter totally turned me off from that one. He may not realize it, or if he did, maybe he did not care. I do not know. I simply know that I would never honor any of these types of people ever. Answer 31. Many reasons. Besides the hypocrisy, it sealed the deal for me to stop attending entirely, as I learned from a friend who posted on social media about the church Xmas service having indoor fake snowfall and blow around the sanctuary during praise and worship this past December. A previous church well over a decade ago did an Easter service and used the money from congregation tithe and rented a helicopter and did an Easter egg drop. But the pastor's daughter, praise and worship leader, got on my case about low-income moms using the money the moms group raised to pay for those moms' $40 membership fees. They become businesses that discriminate, favor political leanings, and remind me of high school with the cliques. I just can't. The bullying that goes on in youth groups is insane. Answer 32. Long story short, childhood trauma. Saw my religious family and who they were, and didn't want to be that. Long story-ish. I realized that the entirety of religion is an excuse for people to act like hateful, manipulative, hypocritical, and childish narcissists. The entire religion is based off giving one person your ever-loving devotion, and everyone else comes next. Most Christians, not all, use the words of the Bible and the church to turn it around and get what they want out of people and make them feel guilty, especially towards their children growing up. The book they base themselves and their lives on is based off multiple interpretations by hundreds of people over time, due to a combination of language barriers and rewording of the Bible to make it in their eyes. On top of that, the Bible itself goes against what it says hundreds of times, so the fact that the religion itself is built on hypocrisy says a lot. They then base themselves and their worth off of a being that they purely believe in off of faith. If they believe they're a good Christian, they will tear anyone down who tells them otherwise, or confronts them about being a bad person. Or they will say they're not a perfect Christian to mimic humility, when it's in fact just another manipulative tactic. On top of that, anyone that is not a good person in their eyes, which is ironic because every Christian has a different idea of what that is, whether it be a stranger, family, anybody, they will execute from their lives, all out of selfishness. The list goes on. I could talk for hours. Everyone has a different experience. This is from my personal experience. I don't want to give a lecture, but I feel the people in this subreddit might understand or agree. I still have family and friends who are Christians, and they keep to themselves about it. They don't shove it down people's throats, don't go to church every Sunday, and the most they do is pray. Everybody does it differently, but the most important thing is they believe what they want and let everybody do their own thing. And they are their own actual people. That's the way I believe any religion should be. Otherwise, it is a brainwashing cult. Answer 33. When I was little, maybe 4 or 5, I had a neighbor girl about my age. She wanted me to go to church with her. I guess it was all set up. As soon as we arrived, they split the boys and girls up, and I was kind of all alone the whole time there. It made me realize some things. Faith just isn't something I have, and I feel it is pretty obvious that the Bible and church were all conceived as a form of control. There are too many hypocrisies to even get into here, but the simple do not judge is completely out the window, for instance. A lot of believers also use it as a form of control. You will burn in hell, damnation, if you don't believe what prevents you from murdering or committing crime. I mean, wow. If anything, when I hear that, I have to wonder about how their mind works. Makes me feel as if they have considered these crimes and thought, but Jesus, and that's the only thin thread holding them back from being evil. Anyhow, hope that all helps. Answer 34. I have a lot of conflicted feelings towards religion. I still believe, or at least have faith in there being a higher power and an afterlife. However, I hate the notion that my way of believing is the one true way and that you must accept Christ as your savior to be saved. And to think how much division between humans has been caused by this one way of thinking is insane to me. And this isn't solely Christianity, and I am speaking in general terms. Religion in general unfortunately leads to a lot of unnecessary division and hatred. However, the community religion can create can be a beautiful thing. I just wish there was more tolerance and respect between different religions.
That was enough for today, Cosmonaut. I'll wait for you in the next travel.